Hey guys, today we're driving the 2024 Cadillac CT5 V Blackwing, and we're driving it in the snow. 668 horsepower. We'll probably only be able to use about 68 of that horsepower today. Pretty high spec on this V Blackwing. This is 116 grand as tested, and it's got a lot of options, about $22,000 worth of options. Of course, we have a 6-speed manual, 6.2 liter supercharged V8, rear-wheel drive. It's painted in cyber yellow, which isn't a great color, but that's okay. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. We have carbon fiber interior bits, carbon ceramic brakes, painted brake calipers, Pirelli winter tires, and just one of the best sports sedan chassis engine combinations ever made. This is probably one of my favorite cars on sale today. It is an absolutely phenomenal driving experience. Let's see how it does in the snow. We've driven this on track, we've driven this on the street in the past, and this is probably a day that not many CT5 V Blackwing owners will be taking their car out on, but we're going to give it a shot for entertainment purposes. I think we're going to turn traction control off, see how that goes. We are in my mode right now, and we're actually going to go into V mode because that will keep the seatbelt from cinching up on me every time it detects wheel slip. Suspension's in soft. There's all of our settings. We have exhaust on loud because why not? Let's give us a bit of a roll here. In about maybe 2 or 3 inches of deep snow here. These Pirellis do quite well in plowed snow and hard packed powder, but in deep snow they are a little bit wide to cut through. So we definitely have our work cut out for us today out here. Luckily, no hills here in Southeast Michigan. Let's see how this does. Most important thing, we want to keep our momentum when driving this car. Roads are pretty icy. It is 32 degrees Fahrenheit out, 31 degrees Fahrenheit out, so right on the edge of freezing. This is wet, hard-packed snow, conditions that a lot of vehicles struggle with, no matter whether they're front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, or all-wheel drive. The CT5 V Blackwing is going to be very entertaining today. We're just going to take it easy because it is slippery, and these Pirellis, they're a set of performance winter tires. They're not necessarily a set of hardcore winter tires, and they should do okay, but I think they're just barely going to get us through these conditions today. It is nice, it is comforting to know that they do make winter tires in CT5 V Blackwing sizing. Very ginger with the throttle here. Luckily we have a hill here, and we're getting up to speed okay. We did just do some winter weather testing in my lifted Subaru BRZ and our Honda S2000 with winter tires on it, and those performed phenomenally well in similar conditions. When you have a wider tire, a slightly harder tire compound as we see in a lot of performance winter tires, it does make it a bit more challenging to get through slippery conditions. Alright, we are going to maintain our momentum here and keep it rolling as we've got a hill up ahead. turn traction control back on at some point. Let's give it a shot. Let's try performance traction wet. Very comfortable car to drive in the winter. Heated steering wheel, heated seats are nice and toasty. Great visibility in this CT5V Blackwing. Tons of room in the back seat. Oh wow. Lots of fun noises in PTM wet mode there as it's limiting cutting throttle. This car is just hilarious. I was driving around yesterday. It was completely dry, great weather conditions, and it is just such a good daily. It is one of the best iterations of this combo, the 6.2 liter supercharged V8, the 6-speed manual. I think this is better to drive than the Camaros in some respects. It's a little bit more refined. It's just so engaging. I'm not entirely convinced on the engine sound. There is some piped in engine sound in this CT5V Blackwing in the cabin. But there is a fuse you can pull to disable the active exhaust valve, which is nice. You can just have that locked open all the time. It's in the user manual. I checked. Ride quality is excellent. The magneto-rheological dampers in this are just awesome. Shifter is great. You can no-lift shift this, just bang between gears. Performance traction management is actually really interesting because it basically just limits power instead of applying the brakes. Cuts timing. We're going to leave it on inactive. A lot of people stuck out today. Braking performance is actually pretty decent here. We're going to get on the throttle here up this hill. Foot to the floor. Traction control is figuring it out. We're actually accelerating slightly up this hill. I like that. Good tech in this CT5V Blackwing. Next year for the 2025 model, they just announced that they're going to be coming out with a huge screen that kind of goes across the whole dashboard. I'm actually perfectly happy with this setup. This car doesn't really need anything else. It's kind of the perfect sports sedan out of the box. This is one of the few six-figure cars I would ever consider putting money down and buying and driving myself. It's kind of the best one-car solution I think I've ever driven. Though, on days like today, it might be challenging, even with winter tires. But that's why we got this car this week. That's why we got it on winter tires, is to test it in the snow and see how it performed. I will say the traction control system, just when left completely on, is very good. It's giving me just a little bit of acceleration. It's cutting down on pretty much all wheel spin. The exhaust here sounds fantastic. Nice little burbles and noises on the overrun. Let's take us out of V mode. And in my experience, whenever the car detects just a little bit of slip, it'll tighten up the seat belt, which actually makes you panic just a little bit more. It's kind of frightening. All right, we're going to get over here into the turn lane. Escalade's going to get around us. We're going to go back into V mode. Turn traction off. Are we off? Yes, we are off. And we are just crawling our way through the conditions today. let off as traffic approaches us. Someone commented on a BRZ video the other day, and the comment was, "This guy likes to put cars in situations." And I still think of that comment every day, and I laugh about it because it's so true. It's one of my favorite comments I've ever gotten on the channel. And today, we're putting the CT5V Blackwing in some situations, that's for sure. Well, we know that third gear tops out at 106 miles an hour. That's a wheel spin, going 40. I will say though, the weight from the CT5V is keeping it pretty stable through some of the deeper conditions. Not getting tossed around as much as I am in my BRZ. Though it's not cutting through the snow as easily as it was in the BRZ. We have some slightly deeper conditions today. Let's take us out here onto the highway and let's see what happens at slightly higher speeds. Props to GM though for giving journalists a CT5V Blackwing in the winter, in the snow. This is just hilarious. Oh, it's so much fun. It's getting through this surprisingly well. At low speeds, at parking lot speeds, it definitely struggled to put its traction down. But out here today, all right, we're going to turn traction back on here. It's surviving. This is actually looking pretty good. We've got some salt down on the highways. A little bit icy on this right side of our lane here. Traction control allows for a little bit of initial wheel slip and then it reins you in. That electronically locking rear diff is actually doing a pretty good job of putting power down today. There's only one thing I don't like about this car. There's only one complaint that I can come up with, besides, of course, the color, which is just personal preference. This screen is just, it's too low contrast at viewing angle. And you're always seeing it at a viewing angle because you're in the driver's seat. You're not right here. And it just looks cheap. Maybe that's why in 2025 they're updating to a newer display setup. GM screens have had this problem for a while. They just have a poor contrast ratio at viewing angle. It's so easy to control in a slide. The long wheelbase just makes this a pleasure to slide around in the dry, in the wet, in the snow. Oh, it's just awesome. Coming. We'll wait for this light to turn green. The hardest thing in a rear-wheel drive car in the snow is just setting off from a start. So if you can keep your momentum going between stops, between lights, you don't have to worry about that as much. That is the great thing about having all-wheel drive, is that you can just take off But I feel like driving a rear-wheel drive car in the snow makes you respect the conditions a little bit more too. It gives you an idea of the grip level and the limitations of your car. In an all-wheel drive car, you almost get a false sense of security as to what's going on. I have no false sense of security today. I have a sense of no security today. But it's still getting the job done. If I can make this turn around. This is pretty deep here. We're going to keep it rolling. It's deep and uphill. And we are very offline right now. There we go. Get back onto this section of road, which is looking pretty good. And we're going to turn traction back on. Gotta love that we still get physical controls in a car like this. Quickly turn stuff on and off, unlike probably the biggest competitor to this car, which is the BMW M5. You have to go in iDrive 8 to turn stuff off. Let's talk about that for a minute. This or an M5? Well, the M5 doesn't come in a manual transmission anymore. That's not even an option. The M5 is all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive, which is pretty cool, if I'm being honest. The M5 CS is slightly more engaging and exciting and visceral to drive than the CT5V Blackwing. The M5 CS is a pretty strong competitor to something like this. However, the manual in the CT5V and the price point, this is a less expensive car than the M5 CS, makes this a pretty compelling option. Let's see if we can get through here. This is looking just fine. We're just going to keep the right pedal down, and we are accelerating out of this. Awesome. The regular M5 is a bit numb. The M5 competition is a bit numb, a bit dull. Yes, it's very, very fast, but it lacks the character and personality of this M5 CS. And I think it's lacking in character and personality compared to this CT5V Blackwing. The big win here is manual transmission, and one of the best manual transmissions on sale at that. The shift feel is just awesome. The clutch work, you can drive this car so smoothly. It's so easy to drive smoothly. It's both sporty and luxurious, and just incredibly fast. It is one of the true, properly quick cars on sale today. It's basically a four-door Corvette ZR1, previous gen zero. Tons of space, really nice to live with on a daily basis. You can track it, you can do anything with it. The screen looks a little bit cheap, but that's my only problem with the CT5V Blackwing. Otherwise, this is just a phenomenal car. My best friend has a previous gen CTS V Sport, which is a twin turbo V6, almost the same engine out of the ATS V, and 8-speed auto, rear wheel drive, about 400 horsepower, and he loves that car. It is such a nice daily. He can fit both of his kids in the back, rear facing child seats. He can sit in front of it. He's 6'2". It's comfortable. It's got all your creature comforts, and he's loved that car. It's one of the few cars he's kept for a long time. And the CT5 is just an update of the previous gen CTS. Slightly different size, but about the same in terms of packaging. If you want the ultimate sports sedan, this is it. All right, we've got some slush here. This is going to be a little bit tricky. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to maintain speed. No one's coming. Great. like the color on this car. There are so many other colors available to the human eye in the visible spectrum that are better looking. I think I had a booger that was the color of this the other day. It reminds me of something unpleasant that needs to be cleaned up that came out of your toddler. It makes me cringe every time I see it. But that said, it does kind of remind me of some of the BMW M3 colors like this that are similar to this over the ages, over the years. And I guess that's kind of cool, but ultimately it's a decision, it's a choice. I think many of the other colors are a better choice, but that's okay. That's just my personal opinion. If you want something different, you want something that gets some attention and that can be a little bit controversial, or maybe they're offering a huge discount for this color on the dealer lot because it hasn't sold in 2 years, it could be a good option if you want to wrap over it with a different color, or you're just colorblind and you didn't get pre-approval from your spouse. This could be a very niche and inclusive color for the market, directed at colorblind individuals who just want a CT5 V Blackwing. Steering wheel is getting very hot. You gotta love sliding a long wheelbase car. It's so much easier. Let's check to see if anyone's coming around the bend. This is deeper snow here. This is about 2 or 3 inches deep. Actually not sure how I'm going to turn around, but we'll figure it out. And also, I don't really know if this would work if you have hills where you live. This is not a very friendly winter setup if there are hills. It needs to be flat. We're just going to test out the turning radius here because this is about the best we can do. Try to keep our momentum. Back onto the middle of the road here. There we go. Just have to be very patient. Big bump there. No problem. I mean, who willingly goes out in conditions like this? There's a few of us. There is definitely a few of us. I actually don't think I'm going to do a walk around. We're not going to wrap up this video with a walk around. We're going to stay in the car. I might include some B-roll, but I don't know if I can get into and out of a parking lot in this. So we're gonna kind of leave it on the interior. That way we don't have to look at the color of this CT5 V Blackwing. So, to answer the question, can you drive your CT5 V Blackwing in the snow? Yes. Would I recommend it? No. Is it fun? Yes. Will you get home? Maybe. These are the answers to the questions that we as enthusiasts ask. And the people need to know. It's what the people want to see. It's what I want to do. And what I want to find out. I think we're going to go left. Because that right is uphill. figure out a way to turn around. Right now it says I'm driving through the middle of a cemetery on Google Maps. That is incorrect. Turn traction back on here. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me on this drive. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the peril as much as I did. It's been fun. It's been a good time. Alright, so now we're driving on some lower speed side streets. 25-mile-an-hour roads. They have been plowed slightly. And I've got to say this CT5V is doing quite well out here. The standard traction control system really does a nice job limiting wheel slip. And it's kind of easy to drive, relatively. We do have a hill up here, so we'll see how well this negotiates that. But overall, these Pirelli seem to be performing pretty well in these conditions. I think at lower speeds, they're able to evacuate the slush and the snow a little bit easier. And these roads have been driven on. Unlike some of the other roads we were driving on earlier, that was pretty much just fresh powder, and that does help. Try to maintain our speed up this hill. The tricky part is going to be if I can get up this hill right here, up to the water tower. We've got slush. The light is green. I'm going to go for it. Alright guys, well that's going to be it for this one. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this drive. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.